What's going on, good people? Welcome back. And in this lecture, we'll talk about the importance of being humble and always seeking feedback. Listen, we see it all the time. Aspiring writers come through the door, they're wide-eyed, they're bushy-tailed, they're reaching out to every experienced writer in the business, asking for critiques of their work, asking for someone to look at their work, asking what can they do to take their game to the next level. And then once these writers get a little bit of buzz, they get a little bit of shine, their name starts resonating a little bit on those social media streets, they forget about all of that humbleness and humility when they came through the door. And we see this all the time, that they fail to seek the feedback. Seeking the feedback is just a great way to keep your game at the top level. It's easy to slip. It's easy to fall back into a bad habit. It's easy to really toe the line and be safe. It's hard to seek the feedback and to absorb the criticism. And I'm telling you, as you get deeper and deeper into your writing career, it's going to become more and more important to listen to what your audience is saying. And I'm not talking about some poor trolls out there that's just trying to get a rise out of you. I'm really talking about people who care, people who've been writing with your writing style from day one, friends, family, past editors, other colleagues and peers. Do not turn a deaf ear or a blind eye to what they're trying to tell you, especially if it's coming from a good place. But we see this kind of stuff all the time. We really see a lot of writers coming through the door and then not remaining humble. One of the biggest challenges that I have to you as you pursue your writing career, or as you expand your current writing career, is to keep your ear to the streets, as I say. Keep your ear to the street. Keep your pulse on the street to understand what's being said about your work. You have to have a tremendous amount of self-awareness. You might not be an analytical type writer, but are you self-aware to understand that's one of your, gap areas? That's one of your weaknesses. If that's one of your weaknesses, you can mask that kind of stuff in your strengths, right? We all have to take the feedback. We all have to be very self-aware. So one of the main things is always stay humble, get the feedback, but also have the self-awareness to understand where you are in your particular writing journey. It's about maximizing your strengths, limiting your weaknesses, and also understanding exactly where you sit. You're only as good as your last article. You hear pro athletes say this all the time, that they're only as good as their last game, that their pitchers in baseball are only as good as their last start. Whatever it might be, you as a writer, you're only as good as your last few pieces of content, especially with so many outlets pushing out content by the second and social media pushing out link after link after link after link. You are only as good as your last few pieces of content. And if you are not in tune with what people are saying about you or your whole areas, or you're not getting that feedback, and not only getting the feedback, right, you have to receive the feedback willingly in those ears, and you have to adjust your game based on the feedback. And once again, I'm not talking about trolls. I'm talking about true constructive feedback that you have the self-awareness to look at yourself in the mirror and say, yes, I can get better in that area. Suck it up. I don't care how damaging it is. No one likes to hear or have their work cut to shreds, but sometimes a good old butt whooping is what you need as a writer to keep your performance tight. And that's what it's about. Because at the end of the day, someone pulls you to the side, someone sends you a direct message, someone sends you a personal email, and they're giving you good, solid feedback. Incorporate that into your game. It's no different than a star basketball player, football player. A scout might tell them, hey, listen, if you're pivoting off this foot wrong, you're losing a couple, inches on your stride. The good ones listen to that type of feedback and try to incorporate it into their game, and they try to get better. You as a writer, that's going to be a huge task for you. You have to try to suck it up, put your ego to the side, because we all have egos as a writer, but you have to seek the feedback, and not only just seek it, but you have to be a willing receiver of that feedback. Like I said, just to close things out, been around this game for a long time, and I've seen plenty of writers come through the door. They're practically begging someone to read their content. They're practically begging for advice. They're practically begging for tips and tricks. But once they start getting a little bit of shine, all of that early humility and, being humble, all that stuff goes out the window, and they become the prime authority on things, and you can't tell them anything. I tell you what, I want feedback. I always want feedback for my work. Feedback for me is like a cheat sheet on a test. If my audience is telling me, hey, you need to get tighter here, you need to get tighter there. If my editor is telling me, hey, your last few articles, your ending, the way you've concluded, your stories could be a little bit tighter. Guess what? You're giving me the cheat sheet for success. Someone's telling you what you can do to help you get yourself to the next level, but if you don't willingly receive that, shame on you. So remember, one more time, be humble, seek the feedback, but be a willing receiver of the feedback. You're only as good as your last time out. Get that feedback in you and have the self-awareness to understand your strengths and understand your weaknesses. Play to your strengths. Always try to minimize your weaknesses, but try to get those up to an average form, and you'll be fine and you'll be good to go.